Hi, Sally Holmes here with another Ink Dusters tutorial for you. Today I'm going to be making a little landscapes for you. I'm going to be using these inks, and I'm also going to be using Inkylicious silk art card. I'm going to start off with a nice bright yellow. I'm using an Impress ink pad, but something like Memento Dandelion would be equally suitable for this. So I've dabbed off a little bit of the ink and I'm dusting it across what will be the lower part of the card. I'm going to dust roughly a third of the card in each of the colours that I'm using to create the sunset. With a silk art card, it's really important to remember that it's a shiny surface. Blot off a bit of the ink before you start, like I'm doing here on my mat, but don't worry if you get a few streaks with the first strokes that you get, because because of the shiny surface you can still move the ink around for a little while, because it stays pooled on the surface of the card. So don't worry too much if you get a few streaks, and we're going to use quite intense colour here, so you know, you can put on quite a bit of colour, but try and do it just a bit at a time. Don't splodge loads of ink on all at once. Right, that looks just about okay, the right amount of ink on that part of the card. So now I'm going to swap colours and I'm going to go on to Memento Lilac Posies. This is a really intense fuchsia pink magenta colour. The lovely thing is, when you mix it with the yellow, you get a really good orange, shade of orange. Again, I'm blotting off a little bit, dusting across the card, and I'm just overlapping slightly onto where I've dusted the yellow, just to blend it in to get a nice graduation of colour. Keep your dusting nice and light on your wrist as we did in the first video, and make sure that you're not pressing on too hard. You know, nice light touch to it. Keep that wrist supple as you dust. If you find that you're getting more intense colour at the edges as you dust, then you can always go over the central part a little bit more. Right. Next we're going to move on to the Memento Grape Jelly, which is a lovely vivid purple. Again, you could use an Adirondack with this, something like Purple Twilight, but the mementos do give a really, really good coverage. So I've turned the card round and I'm dusting the grape jelly across the card. And again, roughly a third of the card, taking it across the card and just slightly into the Lilac Posies colour, so that we've got that blend of the purple and the pink together to just give that slightly warmer tone and make it graduate. Okay, I'm just going to do a last few minutes touching up. I'm going to put a little bit extra of the Lilac Posies, take it a little bit higher into that purple there. I'm going to dust across the corners here just to make just to give a bit of definition to it and a bit of shape to it. Right, next I'm going to use a piece of paper to cover up the bottom third of the card, just to make a horizon. And you don't really need a lot of ink on your duster for this, and you'll not think that you're making any difference, but I'm just going to do cross hatching across the edge of the sheet of paper, just a tiny little bit, just so that we make that defined line which will be the edge of the water. There we go. Right, next I'm going to use a piece of paper which I've cut a little bit out of to make just a little piece of land sticking out into the water. And this time I'm going to use black tuxedo memento, and I'm going to use my ink dusters more like a stipple brush just to get the intensity of colour. You could use post-its for this to keep them more still. You could use masking tape, but I just used bits of paper because they were there and it was convenient. You will need to hang on to the bits of paper because you are going to use them for the reflection in the water. Okay, there's my bit of land. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover up that top bit now and create my reflection. So I'm turning the piece of paper over and placing it to correspond with the land in the top half of the picture. Again, I'm using my brush end on, a bit more like a stipple brush, but I won't use as much colour this time because the reflection is always paler than your main image. There we go. Right, I'm going to stamp the lone pine. This is the largest of the northern pine stamps, and I'm going to stamp it in black memento just here. And then I'm going to stamp the reflection of it just by turning the stamp around because it is very similar to the left and to the right, and stamp it downwards directly underneath. This is the joy of clear stamps, you can see exactly what you're doing to get that reflection. Okay, next on to how to make the reflection look like it's in the water. I'm spraying some water onto this mat here, and I'm going to use the yellow end, the end of my duster first, and you can see as soon as I dip it into the water, get some really intense colour off there. and then I'm just dragging it across the picture there, the lower half there. I'm also going to get the Lilac Posies end of the brush and drag that across that bottom area too. I'm going to pop this piece of paper back on just so I can get right up to that skyline to brush across with the water on the brush. Now you'll see a gradual change. The colours will fade, it'll go much paler. Don't worry if you think you've taken too much colour off, because you can go back over it with dry ink dusters later on with more colour if you need to. Right, I'm using, this is the distress marker, the white distress marker, and I'm just putting a few highlights on the tree trunk. It's picket fence and it's very useful. We've got a fine end and brush end on this, and I find it just gives that right amount of white ink just to make the highlight quite intense. Okay, I think I'm going to go a little bit paler on my bottom area, and so I'm going to just drag my pink damp ink duster over it once more, a bit more water, and drag my yellow one across it a bit more. That's looking better, that's looking more like a reflection, and you'll see that the land and the tree, they're blended in a little bit more now, so they do look not like a crystal reflection of it underneath. Okay, time for my birds. There's lots of Inkylicious birds. Lots of the stamp collections have got birds on them. These are the ones from the Windswept stamp. And I'm going to use a new sentiment. This has been released before as part of a large A4 set, but Debbie's now brought this out as an individual one. And it's in a larger font too, so it's perfect for this sort of thing. Just add a little bit more highlight to reflection of that tree down there. There you go. You can find all the products to make this card at www.inkylicious.co.uk. Thanks for watching.